Joining me now is Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin. He is the Republican nominee for Attorney General, owing to his election night victory. Congratulations to you on a big win on election night, Governor Griffin. I guess we can't call you general yet because you still got a Democratic Party opponent, but you've also got you still got the title. So
you've been calling me Tim and a lot worse for a long time. So we can just leave it at that.
All right, Tim, let's talk
thank you for your kind words. Yes, it was a great night. And usually election nights are one of two things. They're either great nights or very bad nights. And this was a good night. We're thankful for that.
Yeah, let's your analysis of the election returns there. We saw Republicans just with a huge advantage over Democrats in terms of the number of voters in there. Some suggestion there were some crossover Democratic votes. I don't know if they were all intent to sabotage. I think some may have been trying to vote for moderation. Some may just be people who are moving to the Republican Party from the Democratic Party. What's your assessment of how big that Republican primary was and what it says about where Arkansas politics are?
Well, look, there's always some crossover when you have an open primary. It's the idea that that's somehow orchestrated, that's generally not something easy to do and generally just not something that can be pulled off, I think. But there's always crossover. Look, I think we are where the Democratic Party was decades ago. We're the default party for most Arkansans, whether you are active in politics or whether you don't really care for politics, but have to pick a primary to vote in. I think the Republican primary is where the action is, whether you're a fervent Republican or not. That's where you go. In the old days, if I could say that with gray hair, the action was on the Democrat side, whether you were a fervent follower of Democrats. And if you were going to vote locally or whatever, you've heard these stories. Well, I got to vote here because that's where all the races are. So I think this is part of this shift that started really in earnest right before I got elected to Congress about 14 years ago, and took Arkansas a little longer than some other southern states to make that transition. But I think we're sort of there. The good news for people who believe in the principles of the Republican Party is that that's where the action is. But always a word of warning that when you have less competition from the other party, then you have to do a better job of watching yourself and making sure that you don't take power for granted and that you do what you say you're going to do. And so there are responsibilities and challenges that come with the transition to more of a one-party state.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the, I would call them anti-establishment candidates, your Jan Morgans, your Conrad Reynolds, your Doc Washburns, have complained some on social media about election integrity here in Arkansas. This is kind of a trickle down from what we've seen at the national level. Any concerns from you about election integrity in this last race?
I've seen no evidence of that.
Yep. Is that conversation going to go anywhere?
I've seen no evidence of it. Now, people may talk about whatever they want to talk about, but I haven't seen any evidence of it. And, I'm big on facts and evidence, and we all should be. And I haven't seen any facts to support whatever people are saying about, unfairness, whatever. Look, some people really got smoked at the polls. And the crazy thing is you've got some people who got beat by dozens and dozens of points saying that somehow it was close. I mean, come on. No, I've seen no evidence of problems, any kind of systemic problems anywhere in Arkansas in either party primaries. And certainly, if there are facts, then I'm sure you'd like to know those facts, right?
I have investigated election fraud before. There's a pretty good system of checks and balances in Arkansas's political process. It'd be real difficult to pull something off on a wide scale basis. Let's turn our attention to a national story that has gripped the nation for the last several days, and that is the tragic school shooting at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas. This is not the first. It's not going to be the last. You know that we are politically divided on the issue of gun control, gun freedom, gun restriction. Mental health enters into this as well. I think rather than having a partisan discussion about that, because there's a lot of different directions for it to go, how do we start finding some common ground to address school safety and to prevent tragedies like this?
Yeah. So let me say a couple things. First of all, I'm the father of 3 young children, and I cannot fathom, imagine the pain, the feelings, the grief that these parents are feeling. Cannot even, I don't see how people go on. They must go on in life, but I can't imagine. So it is, words really fail us in this area. We certainly, you could say things like horrific. It is horrific, horrible, it's tragic, it's devastating, but the words just don't fully convey the pain. You're a father. The pain that you see on the faces of some of these loved ones. So let me say that first of all. Second of all, the issue of school safety has got to be front and center for every school board, every superintendent, every administration, as well as the legislature and other elected leaders. In that specific case, let me talk about that specific case first. We're still trying to get a lot of answers. What answers do we need? Well, answers about the perpetrator, okay, who committed these atrocities. How did he gain such easy access to the school? Face no resistance. What about the police response there? A lot of questions about that. Why was there the delay? So why do we need to know all that? Why do we have to know that? Well, because common sense tells you want to fix whatever didn't go right. Okay. So that's part of the process. You want to fix it so it doesn't happen again somewhere else. You want to learn. You want to learn from other experiences. But one thing is clear. So we've got to harden some of these more sensitive targets like schools. What does that mean? Well, we use armed guards to defend banks, courts, celebrities, sporting events, you name it. State capitol, armed guards, armed security, whatever you want to call it. We use them in every one of those instances. It's not just in the United States. If you go to Europe and go to events, a lot of these same categories I just mentioned are also guarded there. Okay. This is not just specific. So we do have to do more. Why should the children not be protected in the way those others are? So that's a practical thing we need to talk about. On the issue of gun control, because you hear lots of people talking about that. Let me just say this. First of all, lots of laws were broken here. Lots of laws. You can make a list of the laws that were broken here. If you added a few laws to that, I don't think that would have changed anything. But let me say something about what people are talking about on gun control, because this requires more than a bumper sticker response. So if you look at the gun control proposals that people are talking about, there are sort of 3 categories. Number one, they would not have deterred some of the proposals. The proposal I'm hearing would not have deterred these specific crimes. Number two, there are a lot of the proposals that are completely impractical to implement. And number three, there are some proposals that violate the United States Constitution. So I know that they're easy to just pop out there, but if you think this is a much more complex issue than a bumper sticker, some kind of bumper sticker solution. Mental health. Let me say this about mental health. Mental health is a huge issue here. It's a huge issue, and I'll be talking more about it as the year goes on, as it relates to our prisons, our criminal justice system here. But the mental health problems, which have been compounded by the pandemic, it's not the cause necessarily, but compounded, weigh heavily in this. And we also have seen a sharp rise of violence by young men in our society. And we've got to get to the root of some of these mental health issues.
Well,
and we've got to put as much
play devil's
attention.
advocate with you. Let me stop you here. I've let you go long on this. There's other countries around the world that have stricter gun restrictions and mental health issues and have been through the COVID crisis. They don't have these widespread tragedies. This is the argument that comes from those that do want to see more happen to restrict access to guns in some sort of legal and constitutional way. I guess my question, address that, please. But secondly, I feel like that because this is such a divisive issue, and we don't have common ground on some of these solutions, we're going to do nothing on this, and nothing's going to result in the status quo. My bigger question to you is, how do we get past the status quo of 50-50 divisiveness on this issue and find something to do to create a safer environment for kids at schools?
Well, first of all, other countries don't have Second Amendment. Other countries have complete confiscation of firearms. It's a completely different situation. It's apples and oranges. But I do think there is common ground. I do think, look, the commonality between folks that attack with knives, folks that attack with guns, folks that attack, is not the weapon. The commonality in many cases is mental health problems gone unaddressed. And we need to spend as much time talking and thinking about mental health as we do physical health. And so I think there ought to be some common ground if people are in good faith to talk about this mental health issue. I find conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, everybody recognizes that mental health has not gotten the attention. And that's why you see public service announcements with celebrities. We're starting to have more of a conversation. But look, the pandemic's made the mental health crisis even worse. So I think there is common ground. You know, part of having common ground, Roby, is talking to other people, not just saying you've got common ground. So I'm going to be talking with a lot of other leaders. And I've already been talking about mental health in the criminal justice world. And I'm going to continue to talk about mental health because I think it is a critical part of dealing with recidivism and dealing with crime here in Arkansas, which is on the uptick.
All right, we're out of time on this segment. I'm going to have you back probably later in the campaign season. And you and Jesse Gibson, your Democratic opponent for Attorney General, keep me in mind if you guys want to have a spirited debate. I'll offer you time on the show for that.
Thank you very much. Happy Memorial Day weekend. Let's not forget to focus on what Memorial Day is all about, which is remembering those who paid the ultimate price.
All right, Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin, thank you for your time.
Thank you.